Hello guys, this is Pizel, and I'm here to start part 6 of a tutorial series. As you could tell, I feel a little better, and we're gonna just jump right into it. Last episode, I've taught you guys how to move and animate your character, and do a couple of fixes, some jumps. Um, for this episode, we're actually gonna find a way to kill our player. So what I want you guys to do is actually make a, how about this? We're gonna make a object called kill box. All you have to do is right click. For tutorial sake, I'm just gonna delete this. All you have to do is create empty, and you're gonna rename this kill box. So what's gonna happen is this is actually going to be a object that will be below our player. So we're gonna make a box collider 2D, and then you're gonna go to edit collider, and then you're just gonna move this out. The reason why I'm putting this there is for tutorial's sake. I'm gonna just teach you guys how to basically destroy your character or respawn your character if it hits a certain object. So also the scripts I want you guys to create is that under your assets into your scripts folder, I want you to create a C# script called Game Manager. This will handle our respawn events mainly. Um, Also, this will connect to the other two other scripts that I want you guys to create. So I want you also guys to create a. We're gonna talk about respawn points, and we are going to talk about player death. Okay. So what I want you to do is open all three of these up. It's gonna take some time. Since Unity just updated, I don't know what the new version is all about, but I'm interested in looking that up soon enough. Actually, we don't want player controller. We don't want player controller. We want player death, and we want respawn point. Alright. In our game manager, what I want you guys to do is that we actually have to set a reference for our player. So we want to access the player. In order for us to do that, we gotta set a variable to reference the player controller, which is hooked up to the player. So private, and do player controller, which is what we have down here originally, as you guys can see. And do player controller, and from the player controller, we're gonna call this. We're gonna reference the player controller to the player. So what's happening now is that we're accessing the script player controller to the game manager script. But obviously this can't work by itself. So for on void start, what we want to do is the player, whatever we set our reference to, we actually want to get the components. No, actually we want to find the object. Find object of type player. I could tell. Wow, they updated the model developed. This is beautiful. This is just absolutely beautiful because before it was just horrible. I like the new changes what they did to the coding development environment. This is amazing. Um, so for since we got the player, what we're trying to do is find the object of type player controller. The player controller is accessed through the player. So what we're trying to do is trying to get the script from the player object, and whether from that the script is what we want to do is trying to control that in our game manager script. So we access this by putting these two simple codes in here. Also, what we want to do is we actually want a checkpoint. So I want you to put in public, and I'll put game object current. Actually, let's put respawn point. Respawn point. So what I want to find out is trying to figure out the respawn point. And what I want to do is for the respawn point, whatever the game object is, I want our character to respawn. So that's just there for now. So what I also want you guys to do, also, I want you guys to create another, I would say, object class. So I want you to do public void. As you know, this could be accessed throughout the whole entire scripts of our scene. I want to do public void actually, what I'm doing. Yeah, public. My fault. Public void, and I want to put respawn player. So for this is that in this code I want to actually respawn our player. So for example, let's actually test this out. What I want to do is debug log respawn player. So what this does is just tells us in our game editor if our character respawns. Since if our player dies, what we want to do is set it so that it keeps respawning in the area that we want it in from our respawn point. So I want to put the player transform position. So this takes off this takes the player's transform position to X, Y, and Z values will equal to, how would I say, respawn point transform position. So whatever the respawn point is, basically, what I want to do is that if the player dies from something, what I wanted to do is go back into, I want to activate the respawn player, and then the player's transform position XYZ will be the respawn point transform position. So that means that we need to create a game object to reference the respawn point. Which we currently do not have. Oh, I spelled that wrong. Okay. Also, a thing that we want to do, thinking ahead, is that the player, because if we die, the vector, our character's velocity will keep going. So we need something to shut down that velocity. So what I want you to do is create the player, and I want you to get component rigid body. So what we're going to do is get the rigid body of our player, which is the player controller is hooked up to, rigid body 2D. I'm going to set that to velocity equal vector 3 0. So we're going to set everything at X, Y, Z values to 0 every time we die. Also, since we have the player, you have a game manager, you got a respawn points. We have everything so far. So let's see if this makes sense. The player controller, whatever the player controller is, I mean, private player controller, the player. So what we're gonna do is from the start, we're gonna find the object type of player controller, which is hooked up to the player, and so it will access the player code. I mean the player in general, the game object. And so since we're gonna access the player controller, we have everything that we need to do to configure it. So from that, we could do the player transform position, whatever the transform position is of our character XYZ equal the response point of a transform position. A transform position of our respawn point is something that we are going to create. Also, from the player get component, rigid body dot velocity vector 30, what we're gonna do is that every time it responds, we want to set the velocity to 0 so it doesn't have anything funky going on with it. So we're gonna save this. I want you to go back into your hierarchy, as you can see. Right click, and I want you guys to create a game object called game manager so we can place the game manager script into oh, that's interesting. So what we're gonna do is put the game manager script into here. As you can see, the respawn point, since it's public, we have to set reference to the game object. So I'm actually gonna move this character to the side a little bit, and we actually going to create a respawn point. So create empty, and we're going to rename this respawn point. Okay. We don't have a script for it. I just want you guys to set this up. So just in case. So now that we have this, what we want to do is go into our respawn point script, and I want you guys to access the game manager. So it's the same thing as we did to the player. We're gonna do the same thing for the respawn point, accessing the game manager. So public game manager, the game manager, from the game manager I want to find object of type game manager. So I'm accessing the script of the game manager, which is over here, and I want to find the objects of type of the game manager script, which is whatever objects game manager is in, and what we want to do for a respawn point is that we just want to set the reference to. So I just want to set the reference for now, but what we want to focus on now is just killing a player. So going back to the player death. Sorry if I'm all over the place. So back into our player death script. What I want to do is that every time our player dies, we want to access the game manager, and we want to access the public void respond coding. So from player death, I'm gonna actually do the same thing for respawn point. What I want to do is go public, figure out what the game manager is, set the reference to. So I just want you guys to copy and paste. Both of them are gonna have similar codes. So let's see what we have here. So we have a game manager. We're gonna access the game manager, and then what we need is something to collide. So like every time the player touches this certain object, I want the game manager to respawn our player. So I want you guys to create void on trigger enter 2D collider 2D other. So from here, from void on trigger enter 2D collider 2D other, if we're gonna make an if statement, if other name, because when we accessing the void on trigger into 2D, we're setting the collisions, whatever happens with the collisions, we're setting reference to others. So typically what happens is that anything we set and after the collider 2D is the reference to. So other will be collider 2D. But since we said void on trigger into 2D, what we're doing is accessing like the triggers of our box colliders. So instead it'll be like is trigger instead of being a solid object. So I'm gonna basically show you guys in a little bit how that works. So equal player. So basically what I'm doing, that anything that has the tag player, I want to go into the game manager, and I want to do is I want to access respawn player. So every time this character, if the character with the name of player hits this game object, I want to respawn the player. I want to access the game manager and respawn the player from whatever respawn point it has been recently stored in. So let's test this out and see if everything's going okay. But first we gotta set the respawn points. So we have a respawn point actually right here. I have a parsing error. Oh. Sorry, I forgot to put the other bracket. So we're just gonna clear that away. Oh, very active. Very different from the last build of Unity. So we're gonna try to figure out what our respawn point is. So our respawn point's right here. I actually want to give this a collider. Let's give it a circle collider. And I'll put this as a trigger. So what I'm gonna do is put a respawn point into the respawn point of the game manager script. And for the kill box, I want to give it player death script. And I want to access the game manager, which has our script of respawning our player. So if our player dies, the game manager would respawn our player to our respawn point. I also want you guys to set the player to is trigger. Actually, no, leave it there for now. We want to see how it plays right now. So I just have to check on a few things actually. So I'm just gonna play this, see what happens. Interesting. So I have to, as you can see, it just stopped. It was turned. It was just a solid. So let's play this again. See what happens now. See, as you know, it just respawns. And it responds back at that point. But what's happening now is that actually our player is going through our object. So we're going to fix that later, actually. So as you can see, our respawn point is working, which is good. That's what we wanted to do. We wanted to keep on respawning every time we hit the kill box. So we're gonna go to a kill box. I'm gonna move this down a little bit. See what happens. Just spawning, spawning, spawning. Make sure you've set. We're gonna actually take this off. It's kind of strange how that's not working, but bam. We said that is trigger. It just spawns. It keeps dying and dying and spawning at the same point. Okay, so we got that working. And now, what we want to do is solve the issue with our platform and why these keep falling through. What happened if I set that as trigger too? Actually, let's test this. We'll still go through though. Should. Hold on, I'll be right back. So guys, I just made a silly mistake. What it was is that if you go back to kill box, I just want you guys to take off. I want you to take. Actually, hold on. Let me see this. Yes, I want you guys to put the kill box as is trigger, and I want you guys to leave these is trigger for the box collider for the player off. Do not put that on. So what happening now is that you could clearly see a character just respawns. Sorry about that. It was a silly mistake. Hate silly mistakes. But it happens. So now we got something that kills our player and respawns our player. So when our character falls, boom, he respawns and he's moving around again. Okay, enough of that. And so now let's see if. So we're gonna go back to our script since we know that's working. Now we're gonna go to our respawn point, and what happened with our respawn point actually is that it's gonna be similar, but then again it's not. So we want to make another void on trigger into 2D, just like our player death. Oops. So for void on trigger into 2D, what we want to do is if other name is equal to player, same as before. Make sure you put the parentheses around it. The game manager respawn point, we're going to access the respawn point equal to game object. So every time we hit a certain point, a certain respawn point, so the game manager respawn point equal to game object. So every time we hit a respawn point, I wanted to store our game object. So this also, to make sure that works, I want you guys to create a debug log. Respawn point active. And I want you guys to put plus to add on to it. Transform position. This will help out with this will help just to fix the problem if like the transform position for some reason does not work. We just want to put this there just in case. Let's see how this is. So we got a respawn point, and now we got respawn points. And what I'll do is put my respawn points inside my respawn point script. Game manager, respawn point. Make sure you take off the play button, by the way. If you don't take off that play button, I'm going to access the game manager. Let's see what happens. Okay, perfect. So for our respawn point, we also want to put this in prefab, so it's saved inside of our project. So in a way, it's like if I move this over here, for example, and it turns blue, that means our object is saved. So that means we could delete this, and basically our game object will be saved into our folder. So just pick up and put back, or you could access this during with another script within our hierarchy. And as you can see at the top, it says select, revert, apply. That means you can revert from not being a prefab to being just a normal object within our hierarchy. Basically, prefabs help with the clutterness and also helps us access different objects and be a little bit more organized in a way. So we got a respawn point here, and what I want to do is make another respawn point over here and see what happens. So I die. What I want to do is hit the other respawn point, and bam, and there you go, baby. He responds. All right, guys. Sorry for a little rough video, but if you guys enjoyed today's video, please like, share, subscribe, and peace out, baby. Hello, guys. This is Pizel, and today for this part of our tutorial, we're gonna talk about animation and flipping our character, and basically getting you guys